Hare Krishna. Thank you for your patience. My name's Rajendranandana Dasa. I'm an insignificant disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and it's my pleasure to try and discuss some of the glories of Srimati Rukmini Devi tonight. It's her appearance day. She's the eternal consort and queen of Krishna in Dwarka, the principal queen. So, if you could chant along with me, I'd appreciate it. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sutara Sata Srimati A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sutara Sata Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhagan Ke Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ke Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhani Ke Shri Vrindavan Dham Ke Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ke Jagannath Puri Dham Ke Dwarka Dham Ke Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish Ke Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ke Gaur Premanandi. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're going to start with a verse from the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna considers this to be the most confidential knowledge that he has shared with Arjuna. It is text number 65. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru mamai vaishya satyam te pratijane priyosi me. He's instructing Arjuna and all of us. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you're my very dear friend. Purport. This most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and should always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be molded, so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in association, the association of Krishna, face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he's the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend of Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayan, Ram, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarne. So it's very interesting. Because Srila Prabhupada has taught us that Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead who possesses inconceivable potencies. Lord Chaitanya has given a name to this science of the absolute truth that has been passed down in disciplic succession to us, and it's called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. First of all, it's inconceivable. You're not going to be able to accommodate the unlimited glories, energies, qualities, activities of Krishna within your tiny little brain and intelligence. It's not possible. It's like trying to put an elephant on something the size of this little cup saucer. Krishna is transcendental to this world, and we also are transcendental as living entities, spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna's spiritual energy. But we find ourselves entrapped in this material energy. So being bewildered by the illusory potency of the Lord, which is far stronger than us tiny little insignificant living entities. We can't cross beyond her boundaries. We can't get out of her control if we're not helped from above, unless we get the help of Krishna and those who are on the transcendental platform serving him, his devotees. So this is a great science. It's inconceivable, and also Bheda Bheda Tattva, meaning basically everything is one with Krishna and different from Krishna. He has unlimited energies, and those energies are the same as Krishna, but simultaneously they're not. And you might ask, well, how is that possible? It is and it isn't. But it's like the sun and the sunshine. The sun, the last rays are coming through this door, the windows of the door, but the sun's not in the room. We can say like that. The sun's still shining here. The sun's in the room. But it's not. It's different than the sun planet. One with, but different. So Krishna, Maharaj was talking about this morning. He is one person, but he has the ability to expand himself unlimitedly. Unlimited forms of the Lord. It's compared to, we see waves coming in on the beach here. And this is just one tiny little stretch of beach on Pacific, here in Pacific Beach. But as many waves as there are in the ocean, the Lord has countless more expansions, incarnations of himself. Inconceivable. I mean, being part and parcel of him, having his qualities in a tiny quantity. Wouldn't you like to be at two places at once, many a time? It'd be awful nice. Krishna can do it. He does it. There's scripture to support that, of course. Ramadi Murti Shukalani Amena Tishtan. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who's manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in this world in the form of Ram, Nishinga, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. Then there's an example given by Lord Brahma from his Samhita where it says the light of one candle can be used to light countless other candles, and the potency of the flame on all the candles is the same. The brilliance, the light of the... But there is an original candle. And in the same way, although the Lord has unlimited forms in which he engages in unlimited activities with his unlimited devotees, they're all Krishna. But they're Krishna in different moods, accomplishing different, objectives in reciprocating or in his descent. Most often than not, it's to please his devotees. But as Krishna says, he comes to kill demons, he protects devotees, and he reestablishes Dharma, the principles of religion and surrender to the Lord. So, Krishna is the original. Srila Prabhupada is a Krishna Bhakta because he's a devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya came in the mood of his inseparable potency, pleasure potency, his best devotee, Srimati Radharani, to taste what you and I have the opportunity to experience. Loving devotional service to him. He's receiving all the love, but he doesn't know what it feels like to be the enjoyed. He's the enjoyer. He's receiving it all. He doesn't know what it's like to have single-minded focus. He has so many devotees to please, to take care of. And of course he can juggle it all very expertly and easily. But in his descent, Krishna's descent, the original personality of Godhead, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to taste this. Now, Lord Krishna is the originals, as Krishna said, as it's said in the Bhagavatam, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Out of all the incarnations listed in that chapter, then it is said Krishna is the origin of them all. So Krishna and his energy inconceivably are one. He and Radha are one. We say Radha and Krishna, Hare Krishna. They're never separate. But for enjoyment, spiritual enjoyment, they have separated eternally into two forms as we worship here. And they carry on in Goloka Vrindavan, the topmost spiritual planet in the spiritual sky, with their devotees. And Krishna expands. I wanted to share with you, today is the appearance day anniversary of a very dear godbrother of mine, Padmalochan Prabhu. He was my Siksha Guru in teaching me the glories of the Dham, Vrindavan, Mayapur, the glories of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, of Goloka Vrindavan. He taught me the glories, as Narottam Das Thakur says, if you want to understand Krishna and Vrindavan and the pastimes of the Lord, you have to study the literatures of the Goswamis. He taught me how important Rupa Goswami is to our movement, to our disciplic succession. We always say that Lord Chaitanya came to taste love of God, and he came to distribute it. However, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a prominent acharya after Rupa Goswami, says, in truth, Rupa Goswami is the one who broadcasts love of God throughout the world. We chant this prayer. Because of time, I didn't do it. But Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. When will Rupa Goswami empower me to understand the mission of Lord Chaitanya and share it with others? The love of Radha for Krishna is inconceivable for us. We will never truly understand it. Because just as Krishna is unlimited, she's unlimited. And nobody can engage in any devotional service without her blessings. This Mahatmanastamam Partha, Daivyam Prakritim Ashrita, unless one is under the protection of the spiritual energy of the Lord, that energy is Srimati Radharani's blessings. Bhakti, Shakti, the energy of service to the Lord is hers. She has the ability to give it to anyone she wants. So the love of Lord Chaitanya is inconceivable, but Lord Chaitanya empowered Rupa Goswami to codify what prema bhakti is. Pure, unalloyed, loving devotional service, wholly and solely focused on pleasing Krishna with no other desire. The nectar of devotion, Vidagdha Madhava, etc. These are books, nectar of instruction, Upadeshamrita, that he has given us. And Padmalochan taught me what it means. We hear in Prabhupada's purports, we are understood to be Rupanugas, followers of Rupa Goswami. And what that means is Rupa Goswami in Krishna Loka, his form is of an intimate maidservant of Radha. And he simply assists her in serving Krishna. He is in the topmost position as an assistant to Srimati Radharani, assistant of the assistants. And somehow or other in this disciplic succession from Srila Prabhupada, we're given an opportunity to be taught this science and how it's applied in this world, and be allowed to be given service in Krishna Loka under his guidance if we wish. through the agency of our own spiritual master and the previous acharyas between him and Rupa Goswami. So Rukmini Devi is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. Krishna in Dwarka is an expansion of Krishna in Vrindavan. And I want to share with you, this is Lord Chaitanya speaking to Rupa Goswami. Lord Chaitanya went to see Srila Rupa Goswami, and the omniscient Lord spoke as follows. This is the Antya Leela, chapter 1, text number 66. He said, "Do not try to take Krishna out of Vrindavan, for he does not go anywhere else at any time. The scriptures declare that Krishna is eternally in Vrindavan, and he never takes one step outside the boundary of Vrindavan." He continued, "The Krishna known as Yadu Kumar, which is Rukmini's husband, is Vasudeva Krishna. He's different from Krishna, who's the son of Nanda Maharaj. Yadu Kumar Krishna manifests his pastimes in the cities of Mathura and Dwarka, but Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, never at any time leaves Vrindavan." After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to perform his noontime duties, leaving Rupa Goswami somewhat surprised. Because Rupa Goswami revealed Satyabhama, who is the second most intimate queen of Lord Krishna in Dwarka. She gave an instruction to Rupa Goswami. He was writing a play describing the glories of Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan and in Mathura and Dwarka. After he left at 16, let's say, Vrindavan, he went to Mathura for a short period and then relocated all his servants and devotees, family members, to Dwarka, an island in the sea off the coast of India, where they would be safer from the attack of all the envious kings and demons that were on the planet at the time. So when he was writing this, Satyabhama ordered me, he says, to write 2 different dramas. Srila Rupa Goswami thought, now I understand that this order has been confirmed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Formerly I wrote the 2 dramas as one composition. Now I shall divide it and describe the incidents in 2 separate works. I shall write 2 separate invocations of good fortune and 2 different introductions. Let me think deeply about this matter and then describe 2 different sets of incidents. And that turned out to be the Vidagdha Madhava, which is Vraj Leela, Krishna in Vrindavan, and Lalita Madhava, Krishna in Mathura, and primarily, for the most part, in Dwarka. So I'm saying this because this is what Srila Prabhupada is offering. When he says, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto, always think of Krishna. I've heard Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, you may or may not know of him, but prominent disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He had attained perfection in life, in this very life. It's rarely achieved. Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. But he said this verse specifically is referring to Srimati Radharani. Who can always think of Krishna unless you completely love him? Srimati Radharani never, without one moment, is not thinking of how to please and serve Krishna. Her service to Krishna completely bewilders him, completely captivates him. She's his servant, maid servant, and Krishna is her servant. She's the queen of Vrindavan. So she expands as Rukmini in Dwarka Leela. And so Rukmini is the consort, eternal consort of Lord Krishna, who has expanded, as Lord Chaitanya said, not leaving Vrindavan, but expanded as Vasudeva Krishna. We know the immediate expansion of Krishna is the Chaturvyuha. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. So Vasudeva, he's Dwarkadish, and the inhabitants, the devotees in Dwarka sometimes seem as 2-armed and sometimes 4-armed. There's more sense of opulence in Dwarka. When you see Jagannath, you go to Jagannath Puri, sometimes the Vesh, the dresses of the Lord, are so opulent, and it's understood that Puri is like Dwarka in a sense, that he's the king of the universe. Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish. He's the Lord of the universe. And his brother there, Balaram, who is the expansion of Balaram, who also never leaves Vrindavan. Sankarshan Balaram. And their sister Subhadra Maharani. So the pastimes of Rukmini and Dwarkadish are so very attractive. Any and all forms of the Lord are worshipable. And even those who have developed love, especially those who have developed love for Krishna, they love to hear the pastimes of Lord Ram, of Dwarkadish in his kingdom, or with Arjuna fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Some people try to sentimentally say, oh, we're just going to focus on Krishna and Vrindavan, the Rasa Leela, etc. No. This is immature, sentimental, wrong understanding. Krishna in all his moods are wonderful, all attractive, purifying. And when we hear the pastimes of Rukmini and her eternal master Dwarkadish, Krishna and Dwarka, we can't help but appreciate how wonderful and Rukmini are. We take the opportunity to pray to any and all forms of the Lord, all consorts of the Lord, all devotees of the Lord, because we know that we are insignificant, that we have a fallen background being here in the material world in the first place, and that we need all the mercy we can get, all the assistance to bring us back up to the standard, so that we might be allowed to enter into Krishna's family. It's very rare to be allowed to go to Goloka Vrindavan to serve Krishna with the Vrajvasis. Most people go to Vaikuntha. They serve the Lord of Majesty. They serve with awe and reverence. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Lord is happy with their service. They're completely satisfied. But if you hear the glories of Krishna, Radha and the Vrajvasis, from Lord Chaitanya and his descendants, then they will tell you they're the best of devotees, the topmost worshippers of the Lord. And if you want, Lord Chaitanya is offering the invitation to join them. That's what the Hare Krishna movement is wanting, to allow us to engage with Krishna face to face, serving him to our heart's content. Now, Swami Badrinarayan was talking about the pastime of Rukmini wanting to marry Krishna this morning. She was the daughter of Bhishmaka Maharaj in the kingdom of Vidarbha. Kundini was the city. Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Radhagiridhari, Jai Giriraj Maharaj, Jai Shishigor Nitai. So she had sent a Brahmin she had heard about Krishna. So many saints and sages would come to the kingdom and they would glorify Krishna. He's so wonderful. His activities are unparalleled. His beauty is unmatched. And Rukmini was coming to the age of where she would be married. Her father, all her relatives, etc., wanted her to marry Krishna. They knew she was a suitable consort for Krishna. Krishna was a suitable husband for her. But there was one obstacle, and that was Rukmi, the eldest brother. He didn't like Krishna. He didn't want Rukmini to marry Krishna. He wanted her to marry Shishupal, who was an avowed, although a cousin of Krishna, he was an envious, avowed hater of Krishna. Every chance he got, he chewed on Krishna. He blasphemed Krishna. He would try and find fault and convince others of how useless Krishna is. Basically, like a crow. Caw, caw. Whereas Rukmini had heard from devotees, swan-like devotees, the glories of Krishna, and in her heart, she simply wanted to be eternally united with Krishna and serve him to the best of her ability, to her heart's content. She wanted to marry him, and she boldly wrote a letter that was sent via a Brahmana. Please come and deliver me before I, who should be rightfully offered to you, is about to be stolen and enjoyed by a jackal. When you are the lion, you are the king, the best of all, Purushottama, the best of all persons, you should come and take me. And she gave a plan, telling you, come and save me. When I'm going to worship Ambika, the family deity, right before the wedding. On the day of the marriage, we go for the blessings of Devi. Well, the morning she woke up before sunrise, and she was in extreme anxiety because the Brahmin hadn't come. Is Krishna coming? Is this faultless Supreme Lord realizing that I'm full of faults, and thus he doesn't come, and the Brahmin's not coming because he doesn't want to give me the bad news? He knows how I'll be crestfallen and actually ready to give up this life, because if I don't want to be touched or enjoyed by anyone. Shishupal, he's a regular person, living entity, but he possesses a bag of obnoxious substances, bile, mucus, air, etc. Very proud, twirl that mustache as a Kshatriya would. So impressed with himself, but I don't want to marry such a fallible soldier, one who cannot deliver me from the material existence and who cannot fully satisfy my loving propensity. So she was becoming very despondent, but then all of a sudden she got some good omen. The Vedic culture explains when a woman has a trembling of the left arm or left eye, left thigh, something like that, it's a good omen. Something wonderful is going to happen. And all three started twitching. For the man, it's the right-hand side. But started twitching, thought, oh, this is a good sign. And right after that, the Brahmin came in, having been sent by Krishna. Krishna had arrived in the city, outside the city. He wanted Rukmini to not be in anxiety. Tell her, please, my dear Brahmin, I've come. I want to accept her as my wife. I've been aware that she's been desiring me for a long time, and I too desire her as my wedded wife. So she was overjoyed, and she thought, what can I give the Brahmin for this priceless news? And she looked around, and she thought, I have nothing to give him. So she simply bowed down at his feet. And because she is, we can say, often is said, the supreme goddess of fortune, although Radha has her origin in that title really applies to her, but no, Rukmini is often glorified as the supreme goddess of fortune. And just as that moment when she was bowing down to him, unbeknownst to the Brahmin at his house, unlimited opulence had just been bestowed upon him and his family. A side effect of the blessings from Rukmini Devi. So anyway, the time passed. She gets ready for the wedding, dressed so nicely, new cloth, the wedding necklace, etc. She is taken on a palanquin in procession to the temple. The last 15 feet of the procession, she gets out of the palanquin and walks into the temple. All the Brahmins' wives are there to help her worship Devi and her children, Ganesh, etc. And they had seen Krishna. They also had heard of Krishna, and they, as well as all the inhabitants of the city, the capital, wanted Krishna to marry Rukmini, wanted Rukmini to marry Krishna. And so they advised her in her worship, please pray to Katyayani, to Ambika, that she bless you so that you can marry Krishna. So that's what she did. Like I said, we'll take the blessings of everyone and anyone to get the service of Krishna. And that's what she prayed for. Then when she was coming out, she's walking, but she's very shy because not only is Krishna there, but Shishupal is there, and all his allies who were the demoniac kings that were overburdening the planet that Krishna had descended to kill. Jarasandha, who else was there? Dantavakra, so many big name demons and their armies. Because I knew this Krishna might try to pull something off. He might try to kidnap Rukmini. Take her who deserves to be the property enjoyed by Shishupal. So she was very shyly. She was kind of looking around because she wanted to see, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? But she didn't want to see the gaze of any of the men. Now these men, when they saw Rukmini, it's described they became so overwhelmed with the beauty of Rukmini that they fainted and fell off their elephants, their horses, and their chariots. Man. They describe that the beauty of the queens of Dwarka, they make the demigoddesses look plain and ugly. What to speak of human? There's no comparison. She's the supreme consort of Krishna and Dwarka. But the Acharyas explain they weren't really seeing Rukmini. They were seeing the external representation of Rukmini. They were seeing her as the illusory energy. If you have lust or impure desires, if you are not selflessly wanting to serve and please Krishna and his consort, they will not reveal themselves to you. Just like it was Lord Chaitanya found the evidence in Shastra while touring South India. Ravana never touched Sita. When he went to grab her and kidnap her, she withdrew, and Amaya Sita, the representation of her through the material energy, was taken by him. So certainly there's a lesson there for us. But anyway, they're all passing out. And, you know, here in this world, sometimes you'll see men driving down the road and they see a woman, they'll kind of like, they'll turn their head, and men have walked into swimming pools, men have walked into poles, men have, had crashes because of lust, looking after some woman. It's not that uncommon. Well, they were experiencing the same lust and passing out. And then Krishna came in his chariot, and he took her by the hand, assisted her on his chariot, and then he slowly drove around all the kings in their chariots and their army, as if, try and stop me. And then he drove off with Rukmini. And they came to their senses. What? What just happened? Quickly, get your weapons. Let's go after him. He's like a jackal who has stolen the prey, the prize of the lion. Which, of course, it was just the opposite. Shishupal is the demon who wanted to enjoy Rukmini. He and these kings, they were the jackals. But anyway, they were falsely proud, and they went after. So Balaram had accompanied, he'd come right after Krishna. Oh, Krishna's going there, there's going to be trouble. Let's get our army of the Yadus from Dwarka, and let's go and help. Let's serve our Lord. So when Krishna drove out, they followed him. And then when all the kings and their armies came to pursue Krishna, then the Yadus, they stopped. They turned around, Balaram and all the warriors, then they began to have a battle with the kings and their armies. And it was a fierce battle. Heads lopped off, arms, thighs, the horses, elephants, so many carriers, they were chariots, all destroyed. It was quite a battle. Rukmini was quite concerned. Oh, God, what's going to happen? Such a bigger force of the friends of Shishupal are there to battle Balaram, your brother, and the soldiers. He just smiled. He said, don't worry. Your army will easily take care of them. It was the first time he was sharing with her, you are now my bride, my queen, my kingdom is yours, so your soldiers will take care of them, no problem. And sure enough, they were defeated, and all of them, Jarasandha and everybody, they became disheartened and saw, man, this is crazy. I'm not going to lose all my forces in this losing battle. I mean, she's not even my wife. And so they turned around to leave. But Rukmi, oh man, was he furious. Krishna has stolen Shishupal's bride-to-be. I take a vow that I will go after Krishna. I will kill Krishna. And if I don't succeed in rescuing my sister and bringing him back to Shishupal, then I will never enter again into the capital. little overestimation of his prowess in comparison to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the possessor of all 6 opulences. So he came out, and he was followed by his armies, but he sped ahead alone, shouting at Krishna, "Stop, stop! You rascal! I'm going to kill you and make you lie down and take my sister back." And all the insults that he was throwing at Krishna, the acharyas have said that Mother Saraswati was actually dancing on his tongue, and they can be understood. Sanskrit is such a poetic and incredible language that they all could be taken as glorification of Krishna and his position as he who will be victorious, and that I'm going to lose. And sure enough, when he got up, Krishna destroyed with his arrows all his weapons, repeatedly, so many weapons he took up, and he destroyed his chariot. Then he jumped off the chariot with a sword, and he ran with his sword to attack Krishna. Krishna pulverized, broke to pieces the sword and the shield. And then he took Rukmini, took a piece of cloth and bound him up by the neck. And with his sword, he was ready to kill him. And at that time, Rukmini fell at the feet of Krishna and said, "Please spare him. Don't kill him. Don't. And it's interesting to note the acharyas explained to us, it's not that she was attached to her brother. She possesses unalloyed love for Krishna. And Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that devotion for Vishnu means that you are totally absorbed in the Lord, that you are his and he is yours, and there is nobody else that comes to mind or you put any undue attention upon, because you are totally in love and surrender to, in service to the Lord. Now, she possessed that love. But this is an interesting thing. Rukmini is the wedded consort of Krishna. This is the Madhurya Ras, the topmost relationship of service to Krishna, the most intimate service. Most religions, even among Vaishnavisms, don't understand this. And there is an aspect of one who is a queen, a married consort. She has to consider, what will the citizens think because of my behavior and my and by the example I set. And she thought, if my brother is killed on the day of my wedding, people will criticize. She was thinking like this. And that's a form of love that those who are wedded to Krishna have. And they make the distinction that the gopis don't have this kind of love. They are the unwedded consorts of Krishna. Unless one hears about this truth, this subject matter from the spiritual masters, one will misunderstand it and judge Krishna by mundane moral principles. But Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. He's the creator of all, and he, duly deserves to have the service of anyone and everyone. He can do no wrong. Everything that exists is meant for his pleasure. So the unwedded consorts of the Lord in Vrindavan, they have no sense of restriction based upon the peer pressure of their husbands, family members, or society. And this love is the highest standard. They will throw their future, what will become of us, or what will happen to our reputations. So many things. They don't care. They simply want to please Krishna. So there's a distinction between Rukmini and Radha and the gopis in Vrindavan. But be that what it may, her love is spotless. And so Krishna, he took his sword and he gave Rukmini a haircut and a shave. He cut off different parts of his hair, his long hair, down to the roots, blood coming from the scalp, and cut off snippets of his mustache and beard, and he looked horrible. He was a prince, for heaven's sake. He was in line to inherit the kingdom from his father. What a disgrace. As Krishna tells Arjuna, infamy is worse than death for a Kshatriya. And then Balaram comes up right afterwards and he scolds Krishna. What have you done? He's our relative. He's our brother-in-law. Why have you disfigured him like this? You might as well have killed him. And then he kind of schools Rukmini Devi, saying, you shouldn't be showing preference to this ill-wisher of those who really care for you. For heaven's sakes, he wanted to marry you to Shishupal and kill Krishna. He wanted to ruin your life. You shouldn't have this mundane attachment to him. She really didn't, but he scolded her lightly like that. And he went back and forth preaching to Krishna and to Rukmini. Balaram is everything about the Lord. Balaram's his immediate expansion, his brother. And it was so wonderful to hear. And there are instructions in the 10th canto in this chapter of Rukmini where he teaches about basically you should not lament because he's simply reaping the rewards of his past activities. His sinful activities have brought this disgrace upon him. And you should know better. You should not be on this lower level of bodily consciousness. And this is the teaching of all the acharyas. Material desires keep us attached to the identification with this material body and keep us from understanding that we're an eternal person, a spirit soul, that belongs in the spiritual world with the Supreme Person, Krishna. And that material desire which ties the knots of the heart, attachment, the biggest knots is in the man and woman relationship. And when they come together, and then children are there, and then the home, and then the relatives, all the assets, and it just builds up, builds up, builds up. The mountain of reactions just gets bigger and bigger, and it keeps us bound to this material world. And Balaram was preaching to her that this is not what you should do. This is not how you should think or see. You're Krishna's wife now. Simply focus on him, serve him, be happy. And his transcendental instructions, which are valid for you and me, they were really meant for you and me because Rukmini is the goddess of fortune, the eternal consort of Krishna. She cannot be in Maya or in the bodily platform. But still, this is the Leela, the playful sports of the Lord and his loved ones. So anyway, I don't want to go on too long, but it's a wonderful day to pray to Krishna, pray to Jagannath, pray to Srimati Rukmini Devi. They are most kind. They want to please Krishna, and they know Krishna wants us to be engaged in his service. And they will happily bless us if we pray for such blessings. And the best way to pray, Lord Chaitanya has told us, in essence, to be able to try and always think of Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And whatever you do, offer the fruits, the results of your activities to Krishna. See Krishna as the possessor of your body. You're his servant, your wife, your children are the maidservants and servants and maidservants of the Lord. Your house is given to you by Krishna. It is his. Work for Krishna. Offer obeisances to Krishna. Worship him daily. If you follow the activities that the devotees in the temple show by their example, then it will prove very auspicious for us. We will get the benefit of being purified and developing the proper desire of wanting to surrender completely to Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead, taking advantage of the offer Krishna makes to us. I guarantee you this because you're my very dear friend and devotee. We want to become the friend and devotee of the Lord. So are there any questions or comments in this regard? Any reflections? Anything that you found of value?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Krishnamurti.
Thank you for a wonderful class. It seems that the more we devote ourselves to Krishna, the crazier we appear to be to, I want to say, outsiders, family members, others who are not so enthusiastic about Krishna consciousness. Would you like to speak a little on that?
I'll speak very little on it. I'll try and be short and succinct. Krishna says, what is day for the conditioned soul is night for the introspective sage, and what is night for the conditioned soul is day. They think sense gratification is the goal of life, and they're trying to enjoy this material world to the fullest extent possible. We, on the other hand, are going in the opposite direction. It seems like, how does that work? You're willing to selflessly give up all your own personal ambitions of satisfying your body and mind's demands, and you're trying to please Krishna only, his desires. That's what you're trying to do, and you're going to be happy? Yes, that's the only way we can be happy. And so what is it? It is folly to be, what is that saying about the wise, ignorance is bliss, isn't there some saying along those lines? Anyway, in the land of the insane, someone who is not insane, he's seen as the weird one. So the majority of people, they had no idea about Krishna and their eternal relationship with him, even who they are as an eternal spiritual soul. So it's our duty to try and to share that knowledge with them, that blessing with them, and not to care about the thoughts or the slights or discouragement offered by those who actually are just running to death and their next birth again in this material world, whereas we, those who are trying to surrender to Krishna under the guidance of his devotees, following Scripture, the process of Bhakti, we're looking forward to this being our last death, giving up the body and going back to Krishna to serve him eternally. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for such a sweet class, Rajendranandana. You've done a great job describing the mood of Rukmini. I've seen a painting, much like the ones we have here of Krishna's nice pastimes, and it was called Krishna Teases Rukmini. And I was wondering, is that a pastime, or does that describe
that's
her
later
mood?
On. At one point, husbands and wives might tease each other a little. It's a little more sober in Vedic culture in times past, but still there's some teasing. And Rukmini is very passive. She will take whatever Krishna throws at her, and she will not complain. She's so submissive to Krishna. And Krishna wanted the slang is get a rise out of her. He wanted to see her get angry. And so some years into their marriage, he one time said, it's not too late. I have so many faults. We don't even know what my caste is. Am I a cowherd Vaishya, or am I a Kshatriya, or, I ran away from my enemies. What kind of Kshatriya does that? I relocated in an island in the middle of the ocean. So, what a cowardly act that is. And he was describing his wonderful transcendental activities in a negative way. And he's going, it's not too late. If you wanted, I bet Shishupal would accept you as his wife. She heard that, and she immediately fainted. The Bhagavatam says, like a cut root tree. Like if you cut a tree at the very root, and Krishna thought, oh, no. I've gone too far. Picked her up, holding her in his hands. He said, I was just teasing. I don't mean it. You're my eternal wife. I would never leave you. I would never want to lose your service. The bond of love they can never be separated. So that's reference to that pastime. Thank you. You've been very patient. I think now they have kirtan, isn't it, Pav? Is there a little kirtan now or what? Is it Prashadam time? You've been very patient with me. I hope you won't be angry. But I'm very grateful to have had your association, and thank you for coming and worshiping Radha Giridhari. Srila Prabhupada Ke, Rukmini Dwarkadesha Ke, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ke, Hare Krishna.